And I do think the scabbard on the back is, well, damn. Hey everybody, welcome to Infinite Realms. Today I'm going to review Neca's Dungeons & Dragons Warduke. Now, Warduke was from the original Dungeons & Dragons toy line, which had nothing to do with cartoon, which is very confusing. But, of all those figures, Warduke was probably my favorite. And I ended up sneaking him into just about every toy line I had, just because I thought he was so cool. He had a cool shield, he had a cool sword, and just a cool look to him. And when I started actually playing Dungeons & Dragons, I always tried to sneak him in as an NPC. So this is cool. This kind of hits, as I've said, I'm not a nostalgic guy, but it does kind of hit that nostalgia a little bit. And if I were to be nostalgic, this would be it. I mean, this is where I would be at. Because the rest of it is more like, I genuinely like that. This I genuinely love, and it does pull me back to the old Dungeons & Dragons line. So here's Warduke in the box, and what can I say, man? He was one of my favorite figures as a kid. I just adored this figure. I mean, it had 5 points of articulation, but it was so awesome. And absolutely my favorite from the Dungeons & Dragons line. One of my favorite figures as a kid. When Neca announced, I was like, ooh, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. And I've waited and waited and waited. And so, yeah, I went and ordered on, I did a pre-order on Nerdzoic. And it was kind of funny because as soon as I did the pre-order, the next day, he is announced that he showed up. And of course, he's shipped me 2 days later because Nerdzoic ships super fast. And of course, love the box, love the presentation. It just looks really awesome. So, yeah, got to get him out of the box now. Alright, it'll be a little bit, going to be some cutting and such like that, because I can see already that he's pinned in with plastic, but yeah, I'll be just a moment. Okay, and there he is out of the box, and man, he just looks so great. I'm going to get into some details I really love. Let's go over accessories. This is a shield. Love that. It looks like a great update to the old one he had. And of course, his sword looks like a great update as well. And of course, with that sword, you have flames. And then you got some really nice knives and daggers. And I'm just really looking and going, wow. And here we got some clasping hands, a pointer finger for when you get out of line, and a grabby hand. Alright, let's take a look at the figure itself. Alright, going over the figure itself, I mean, this is what I really like about this, is that the details really pulled from the original figure and made them a little better and added. The wings on the helmet is just fantastic, and those glowing eyes just peeping out from the darkness in the helmet. Oh, that's what always was so striking about Warduke. And then it's a detail a lot of people miss on the original figure, and they captured it again on this figure, is that if you look really carefully, you can see that the shoulder pad here looks like there's small bones that make up that part of it. I don't know why, it just looks cool. I mean, I always thought it looked cool. His original figure's shoulder pad did flail out a little bit more, but that's okay. I like like they brought it back down and made it a little better. The necklace, of course, is really good. And then we have the belt, which is another iconic piece from the figure. At some point in this video, I hope I'll put up a picture of the old figure. And the mix match boots, which to me just you always spelled evil, and these nice spikes on the sides of the boots. I love it. It's just so great. The chainmail or the scale mail on the arm and the leg just look really good. The asymmetry of this figure was like one of its greatest assets, and it's a great asset again in this one. I just love that they took all that and then did a little bit of addition to it to make it a little bit more fun and a little bit better. I mean, this is a pure nostalgia grab, and I'm in for it. I mean, this is, you're right. I'm in it. And once again, he's got two grippy hands, and one's for the daggers, obviously, and one's for the sword. And I had to change it out, and I had flashbacks from Moon Knight. Yes, I did this. I'm doing this day after Moon Knight fiasco, and yeah, I had some PTSD flashbacks just then. And what's ironic is I'm going with this one because I want to kind of avoid the Battleverse ones till for a little while until I'm mentally prepared for it. And yeah, so it's gonna be a while after that trauma. But again, Warduke looks great with his sword. I love it. It's just, gosh, everything about this figure. If you told me you were gonna do a modern version of this classic figure, to me, this classic figure, this is everything I would want. This is, again, my favorite figure as a child. This guy, he went through every toy line I had. He was a bad guy in G.I. Joe. I can't remember what I used him for. I used him in Star Wars. I used him in, somehow I put him in the Masters Universe. I can't even remember how. And he just always fit wherever he went. He was just one of the baddest ass guys in the room. And really was so happy when I saw this figure, when I saw this was happening. I was just really over the moon. Love it. I can't say enough. And so far, I'm really happy with the results. He just looks great. So yeah, I had to use the pointer finger once. That's a really fun thing. All these scabbards and sheaths that is added with Warduke just make him that much better. I'm loving it. I mean, this is again, this was my favorite toy as a child. It's a figure I still adore, and I still have in one of my storage bins for now. I had moved him out, and I meant to bring him back out, and I just didn't. And it's one that normally is always somewhere center stage on my displays, with the exception of the past year maybe. And he's had a badass sword, a badass shield, a badass look. The other thing is his about his helmet. And about the same time, there was a movie, and a lot of people may know it, and a lot of people may not, called The Beastmaster. And one of the main villains in that had a helmet almost exactly like this. In fact, in the climax of the movie, one of the big things was that Mark Singer, who played the hero Dar, was able to cut one of the ears off, and it was a cool scene. It's a cool movie if you've not watched it. I think I saw it on Amazon not too long ago. Stay away from the sequels, but the first one is really, really good and really worth your time. And I do think like the scabbard and this pouch on the back are nice touches. They are not on the original figure, but it also helps to modernize the figure, bring it forward, rather than it just being a complete nostalgia grab. I mean, it is a nostalgia grab. This one hits the, there isn't much that can hit me in a nostalgia grab, but this one does it. It hardcore. I mean, this one hits me hard freaking core. And is one of the few characters I think could do it. I mean, part of it's just been so long since Warduke has been in action figure form. And, the other part of it is it's just a really awesome version of Warduke. Even in 5 points of articulation and at maybe 4 inches max, he still looked so cool. He was just one of the coolest looking figures ever. And I don't think you can quantify how cool he was. And now he looks even better. It's just really great. And oh yeah, that shield was the bane of so many of my action figures. Captain America hated seeing it coming with the Secret Wars line. I mean, oh wow. This is just so cool. They put in little details now. Like, they kind of darken the eyes in it. And, I mean, it's very subtle in the original toy, but I think they did that too, because I always thought it looked a little darker in the eyes and the nose. And I wondered if maybe that was wear or something. It's just a cool thing. And that shield just, it looks wicked. I mean, you gotta keep in mind, when the Dungeons and Dragons toy line came out, we didn't have all this stuff. And this was all new to most of us. And a lot of them I felt looked kind of cheesy, and some even looked cartoony. I thought the wizards looked cartoony. And, you know, the half-orc assassin was okay, the paladin was okay, the dwarf was okay, but, I mean, I think if Neca does those, I'm not going to go after them. I mean, this is the figure from that line for me. It was just such an amazing figure. And I've got such fond... I mean, it was so simple, yet it just looked good everywhere. Now, for some comparisons, here he is with Storm Shadow and the Ultimate Warrior. And he's a little bit... Of course, he's out of scale. But unless you make him big and imposing, which he was compared to G.I. Joe's at the time. I think it's a little bit taller than, the original ARH G.I. Joe. I'm sure that's a acronym we're going like, or something now, but I'm not going to do that. I'm a real American hero. So, anyway, that's kind of how he looks there. And that gives you kind of an idea how he stands beside of Renew Your Vows Marvel Legends Spider-Man and Ceremonial Luke Skywalker. Keep in mind, Luke's kind of short anyway, so it doesn't really hurt that bad. I mean, he would be a big, imposing character, as Warduke should be. So it works. It's not terrible, if you wanted to go that route. So in summation, I'm going to say it has been very surreal to me to watch a lot of younger reviewers who are not familiar with Warduke, and some of the older reviewers who kind of skipped out, and how they're reacting to it and what they're saying. And it's like, wow. Because at a time, when I was younger, I felt like everybody had this figure. And a lot of those guys got out of action figures. That's what it is. And then he kind of floated around on the secondary market. A lot of people had him. He was like, people seem to collect Dungeons and Dragons. Warduke seems to be the first figure they get. And rightfully so. He's probably the best figure from that line. So, I like this improvement. I mean, I know it's NECA, but at the same time, and I was a little nervous going around the ears on the helmet, because I felt like they were, they are very sturdy, but it's NECA, and I was just always afraid of breaking one of them. But I didn't, so there's that. I mean, he's a really cool, honestly good-looking figure. I'm going to give him 5 stars, maybe semi-reluctantly, just because it's NECA, but it's Warduke. And Warduke, again, one of my favorite figures. He became the generic badass that would whip every toy line into shape. I mean, he was just that cool. I believe he did make an appearance on the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. It's been so long, I have the DVD. I need to go back and watch that. I haven't watched it in a very long time. So I may do that soon, just to see if I can catch Warduke's appearance. I don't think he did much. I think he just captured Dungeon Master, and that was really the limitation of it. But, yeah, 5 stars. A great figure. One of my favorites of the year already. He's just a tip ahead of just a nose ahead of Spiral at this point. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for Infinite Realms. Don't forget to like and subscribe.